Welcome to Whiteboard.fm. Today we're going to interview Gaurav Baheti, who's the founder and CEO at Procol, which is a food commodities procurement startup. Procol has impressively managed to raise $1 million from Blume Ventures and Rainmatter Capital, a fund managed by Zerodha. Gaurav is an engineer who switched to design, worked at Zomato and Google, but eventually decided to open his own company. This entire interview revolves around his transition, his journey, and key lessons that we can learn from his story. So without wasting any further time, let's get started. This is your host Ansh Mehra and you are tuning into season 4 of Whiteboard.fm. Welcome to Whiteboard FM, Gaurav. Thank you so much for being here. We are super excited looking at your journey from being an engineer to a designer, working at all these crazy ass companies and just opening up your own thing. It's supremely fascinating. And I know that we have a lot to learn from you today.
Thank you. I'm humbled.
Awesome. Cool. So, Gaurav, you are an engineer who turned into a designer. You worked at Zomato and Google, but eventually decided to open up your own company. Can you tell us 3 really important mindset shifts that you made that allowed this transition to, happen easily?
Oh, so there's no easy way to, start a company. There's only the hard way. I think what changed for me was a very long-term bet on the potential that I felt I have, which I thought I couldn't fulfill in my previous organization. So I thought I can do much more. And so that was the initial kicker for me to start something on my own. I really wanted to build something big, do a lot of things myself. And I wasn't getting that kind of freedom anywhere, really. So I figured if I have to do a lot of things, I can only do it at my company, And I was a generalist. I could design, I could code, could write. At every point in time, I've picked up some new skill to do something. So that sort of mentality that, I can learn something very fast and be good at it. I wouldn't take time to learn something new. If I have to pick something, I'll pick it. So all of these things sort of made me realize that if I really have to make a huge impact, it has to be by starting my own thing. It could have been by joining a startup as well. But back then, the startups that I was working at, I pretty much was in the ecosystem, right? I was working with everyone. But then I realized that, I need to find my own thing, what I'm passionate about, what I need to do. So I think I just did that. That was a really long-term bet I took when I was young. And I'm still going to continue taking it.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, you're probably gifted because you can learn so many things so quickly. But
I don't think so. So actually, I read this book on which resonated with me a lot. I can't remember the name, but it said one core thing, which I'm definitely not the smartest, but I can put in more work. I can put in more work. And that makes me stand out. That's it. If someone can put in 8 hours, I can put in 16 hours and make it happen.
Yeah. But even after being a great learner, you need some capital to run your own company. And you've raised a good amount of capital for your startup. What does that journey look like? And what happens after you've raised capital?
I think journey just begins by raising capital, honestly. It's not a means to an end. It's the means to the beginning. You need capital to take bigger bets. Without capital, there's no freedom to take bigger bets. And I think capital solves just for that. The kind of ambitions that we have require capital. When we were originally starting out, we were funding it with our own money and we were doing projects to, fund our product ideas. That's how we originally began. But then when we had to take a bet, we told people that, look, this is our mission. We are going to change procurement in India and the world. This is how the world could look like if, we become successful. I think people loved that idea. So they ended up backing us. Back then, things were very different. We were very scrappy young guys who were just figuring out how to do things. And we did not know what we did not know. And that stood out, honestly. So I think that authenticity sort of made a lot of difference when we were going for the fundraise, that we are going to do this. We don't know, but we are going to make it happen. But now things have changed. Now we have a strategy, we have a game plan, we have an action plan, execution team. So we are very focused on executing right now as we stand, and fundraise is just part of the process.
How has life changed since you started your own company? Do you still go out? Do you still relax? Or it's just become very busy now?
Life has changed entirely. It's not the same. I thought it would have been the same, but earlier you shut off the laptop and it's done. Your work is over. But now the work is in your head. So it's very difficult to shut it off. So you start to realize that it's important to understand, or figure out how to separate work from non-work. It's very difficult. That's what I have personally realized. And so workouts or fitness or other activities that you should be doing is what picked up later on in my career. I was working 16 hours earlier, but now I'm focused on making my brain work more than myself, because I feel like there have to be fewer bets taken, and they have to be executed in the right way to make larger impact happen. Rather than being an idea machine, I need to be an execution machine. All ideas can be good if executed well.
That makes so much more sense. I've never heard that before. So as you said, your entire idea is based around the procurement industry, and that's $1 billion industry. The stakes are high and every person involved is a big player. How do you convince these big players to trust your product? How do you get big clients?
Oh yeah, that's a very good question. There's no shortcuts, is what we think. It's not about someone trusting us. It's about, are we confident to make them trust us? Why would they trust us, right? I went on a sales call where there are about 25, 50 to 60-year-old people who want to solve their procurement. They have been at it for past 20, 30 years. And us going in, our young team going in and pitching them, look, we are going to solve this for them. It does make there is a question in their heads that, are you serious? How do you know how to solve this problem for us? And we have sort of demonstrated that with our past record now. Initially, with building trust, it's all about who other person trusts you, right? So we had to get our first customer to make them trust us. When we got that, we got our second customer. That cycle was 1 year. After our first customer, it took us 1 year to sign up another customer. And until January this year, we had I think a handful of customers, less than 10 customers. Since then, we have grown 5 to 6 times and scaled aggressively, compounded really. And so that made us realize that initial days are the hardest, to get the first few customers to trust you, to be with you. It's a beautiful relationship that you have to nurture and ensure them, give them hope that, this is a big problem that we are solving. And they trust you if it's a big enough problem, honestly. And nobody's solving it for them. So if you find that, trust actually becomes out of the question. So there are two ways to look at this. Either you build those relationships early on with these enterprises to go in and tell them, they reach out to you, right? But typically never happens if you are not a B2B founder earlier, because you don't have relationships. So how do you do this? You figure out a core pain point that you can solve for them and tell them, this is how we can help you. And if they're interested, they will trust you. They will trust you enough to tell you what are the challenges they face. People love to talk about their challenges, and we sort of have to listen and just be there. I think that made the difference. There's a book called Speed of Trust. It lays down the foundations of trust very precisely. What are the pillars of trust? And so I think I personally tend to follow those pillars and ensure that I am passing all the checklist items with all the conversation relationships I want to build. Trust is a two-way street here. There's no shortcuts to building trust.
As designers and entrepreneurs, feeling energetic and being in a state of flow is really important. how do you manage your energy and different states of mind and mood swings and pressure? Like, how do you balance your emotions within workplaces?
Oh, yes, this is a very important question. Young founders like ourselves face this. I did not manage a lot of people before starting up, really. So the first time I started my company, I was managing, I think, 3, 4 people, and I was not a good manager, genuinely. I think everyone tends to think that they can manage people, but managing people is a different skill set altogether. I did not realize that early on. And I was, I think, a rude manager early on, but it was hard for me to understand the fundamental principles of what a good manager looks like. And I think over past 2 years, I have grown immensely as a manager or a leader, because now I have to scale and I have to manage teams. And I think, again, I used to read a lot. I used to talk to a lot of people. I talk to better managers. I think like all other skills, managing is a skill and can be picked up. So to pick up, there are fundamental ways to address this problem. How do you solve for managing and bringing out the best in people? So I think I did a lot of proactive stuff to make that happen. Managing essentially, or managing a team, is all about how motivated your team is to get the best results, right? Or what you're trying to achieve. So first and foremost, it's the mission driven culture that everyone wants. People want to build towards something big. They want to progress towards a goal. You give them a goal post, and only then they can look at that vision clearly. So I think I did a lot of things right up in the past 2 years to make that happen. But managing was a difficult skill set. Yeah. It's one of the most difficult skills to build, and no education teaches managing, just like how no education teaches sales.
Even Naval Ravikant says that you can't really motivate people. You need people who are intrinsically motivated. So how do you find such people, and how do you motivate people?
You can't motivate. You can bring the best out of people. Motivation is not an additional layer you can put on top of someone. It's something that already exists. The fire exists within people, but you have to light it up. And to light it up is the question to address. With different people, there's no one single approach on what motivates you versus what motivates me, versus what motivates my colleagues, what motivates my investors, what motivates my everyone. It's a different game it's a multiplayer game for motivation. The only thing common is the mission. The mission has to be big enough to chase that and light up that fire. The dream has to be big enough. So that's number one. I think everyone has to be aligned with that ambition, that we really have to build something big in short amount of time. We all have limited time, limited life. And so to build something very, very big that can last centuries has to be thought of carefully, and everyone has to focus on that. Otherwise, there are only two ways to bring out motivation. It's either positive reinforcement or it's fear. These are the only two ways to drive actions. So with every leader or manager, you can see this playing out. It's either this or that, and that's how you get things done. Over a period of time, I have realized positive reinforcement works better, and sportsmanship culture delivers better results. So inculcating that in our teams has been an important move. We're not perfect, but I am very proud of our team, because it's because of people why we are what we are today. And everyone at Procol realizes this. Every single month, when we do town halls, I think appreciation of what people have done is the most important thing which we try to bring out. That's it. If people like working with motivated people, they get motivated. So it's actually better to build a team that feels they are working with smarter people than yourself. Otherwise, even smarter people would leave and not be here. So we try to build a culture where the bar keeps rising, and no one feels like they are losing out on any opportunity to grow, because fundamentally believe personally that progress and growth brings happiness, and that's my own belief.
I feel that you read a lot. Can you tell me what all books have really impacted your life, like books that have completely changed your perception?
So I think first book is your first love. That changes how you think entirely. I was a complete introvert until my first job. I did not know how to talk to people, so I did not know how to be social really. So there was a book called How to Win Friends and Influence People. I think that was that changed how I was socially, how I learn to be social, learn to be make friends, learn to influence, learn to sell, learn to do a lot of things. So that's a interpersonal thing. I think in business there are a ton of books and resources which people recommend, appreciate. I don't think I can point three books apart from, there's a long list. Rich Dad Poor Dad. Very recently, there's a book called Habit I read a long time ago that still made a difference about how fundamentally humans behave and how to build habits. As a designer, that was a critical book I think I read back then. Apart from that, I read a lot about strategy, business strategy, and business models. So there was a book called Good Strategy, Bad Strategy. There was Blue Ocean one. I think I have a library. I'll send you a photo of the number of. Yeah, so it's a full block wall.
But you feel like it helps, like reading, and you said that I've read on your website that you read about psychology as well. Did that help?
Oh yes, most certainly are. I think as designers, we are very lucky to be learning psychology inherently. Not many people have that. I feel privileged, honestly, when I read about psychology and I get to implement that in my work. As a designer, I could do that. As a founder, I feel that it's even better that I know how psychology makes a difference. Psychology is not full logic or full creative mind. It's understanding emotions, understanding people. It's a different skill again. So I feel very privileged to learn more about psychology. There were a lot of books I used to read on human psychology earlier, but mostly that directly relate to my work back then as a product guy. So I think that's the beginning. That's how I began reading books.
That's really interesting. I mean, yeah, you should start reading something that interests you. But how do you maintain that rate of learning as you start working and you have like a busy schedule? Are you still learning at that same rate?
So topics change, but it's good to learn how to learn. So there was a book called Meta Skill. I remember reading in my third year. Meta Skill was written by a famous author called Daniel. I think I'm forgetting his name, but that book essentially talks about 5 things on how to get better at learning things. And so that book gave me a framework on whenever I'm doing something, how do I go about approach on learning new things. In business or startups, things are different every single day. You have to learn new things, you have to pick up new things faster, grow faster. So I think it's just a matter of time and in fact, starting up made that difference. Now learning is just not restricted to books. Learning is restricted to application. I used to read about entrepreneurship before. I used to read about fundraising before. I used to read about sales before. But it's really learned when you do it on ground. Things are different. While you have that perception ki aise hoga, this is how it works. When you get on the ground, you try and execute. Things are different. Things get real. And to deal with that reality and then mix your academic knowledge to the real world is what now I have realized how to do that. So I think I have gotten better personally, but not entirely just from reading. Reading is great, but then there are mentors, there are advisors that really helps. It's books can help, but when you have someone with you who has been there, done that, I think that is the holy grail everyone should. Because books are meant for people who can't talk to the authors directly, right?
Yeah.
If you get access to the authors.
Yeah, that makes sense. Even the authors can't tell you everything because there's so much information to tell. Even if you ask questions directly, they would not remember things in that specific context.
True. That's true. I realized asking an author about what they wrote, and they were surprised how they figured that out.
Yeah,
So I think
it's very difficult. I think books are a fabulous invention. They are so simple, they are so functional. Even the design of books is so functional. So I think, yeah, alphabet and language, two things have really helped us as a species to grow very quickly. But yes, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gaurav, for doing this. How can people know more about you, about Procol? How can they reach out to you? Do you have any opportunities, hiring opportunities?
tons. We will be hiring 50 to 70 people in the coming 12 months. And right now we're hiring about 15 open positions, and across business, across technology, across product, sales, marketing, design, we are hiring and we are scaling fast. So always looking out for better talent right now. And so I can be reached very easily. I'm like literally present everywhere. I get inbounds from LinkedIn, I get emails, I get DMs on Twitter, but I try to reply to as many as I can. Not all, I know recently not as much as I was active earlier, but I will still make sure I revert to the messages. So please reach out. Email me directly. My email is gaurav@procol.in. Anytime I can be reached out.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. You mentioned a ton of books. I'm pretty sure we'll put the links and we'll put the names in the description or on the video. And guys, do check out his profile. He's a supremely inspiring person and you can learn a lot from him. And yes, thank you so much for being on the show, Gaurav.
Thanks so much for hosting me, Ansh. It's a pleasure.
All right. Thanks. Bye. You just finished an episode from whiteboard.fm. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon because we are coming up with interviews and design reviews that will help you accelerate your growth as an upcoming product designer. This podcast is a part of the 10K Designers Network. Check out our website whiteboard.fm to learn more.